there was this long crowd of folk, and I thought there'd been some change in the licensing hours. I was First Minister, but they never told me anything. So I thought there's been some sneaky change in the licensing laws. So I went to speak to the queue, and I said to the guy at the back, I says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm queuing." I says, "Yeah, I know, but what are you queuing for?" And he said, "I'm queuing for the right to vote." He says, "We've got to get signed up today, or we lose our right to vote." So I said to him, look, I says, I says, all these folk are doing the same. And I said, look, if you just moved into the city, if you fallen off the register. He says, no, he says, I've not been on since the poll tax. He said, but this is the first time. And all these folk think the same. The first time there's been something worth voting for. The first time. And I thought, well, about 2007 and 2011, but nonetheless, that's what he said to me. And I was really, at that point, watching that long queue of people in the sun, queuing to exercise their democratic right, I really realized the campaign had taken off. And, I was really enthused by it. I was moved by it, actually. And I thought, right, I'll use this in all my speeches this week. And we're speaking to the undecided voters of Scotland that week, folk like yourselves, obviously. And the next night, I was in the Park Hotel in Falkirk with Dennis Canavan, the chair of the Yes campaign. And I was given an absolute loudy, I can do that, incidentally. And Dennis always gives it loudy. So there I was in the Park Hotel, and it was packed to the gunnels. Health and safety would have had a fit. And, I was saying, look, yesterday, in the great city of Dundee, I saw something amazing. I saw something incredible in Dundee. I saw something fundamentally significant, something that you'll never, ever see, I thought, in my political life in Dundee. And somebody shouted out, a Tory. And I said, no, not a Tory. I said, what I saw was a queue of people waiting patiently in the sun to exercise their democratic franchise. And the enthusiasm, the galvanization that almost carried the Yes campaign to victory is something that we have to recapture as the next test comes. And the next test, in my estimation, is almost upon us. People talk about, what gives the reason for independence. Brexit is not the reason for independence. But Brexit is the mandate and the majority in the Parliament for an independence referendum. Why? Because page 23 of the SNP manifesto this year said if there's a material significant change such as Scotland being dragged out of the European Union against the will of the people, the Parliament should have the right to call a referendum. And that position is supported by the Greens. And the SNP, Nicola Sturgeon, and 47% got more seats than all the Unionist parties put together, and the Greens are the majority who approve of that position. So that's the mandate and the majority. But it's not the reason for independence. The reason for independence is Scotland's a nation. And that nation of Scotland could do much better than the prospectus, the alternative prospectus, the regional Scotland prospectus, the British prospectus, which we know is opening up for us. Now, when is it going to come to the crunch? Well, I believe that Nicola Sturgeon will take forward her mandate to try and secure Scotland's position in Europe. She's gone through red lines. One red line is that the European citizens of Scotland should be treated as citizens equally with the rest of us. Doesn't seem an unreasonable thing. And the other, and that one will probably be won. Although, when the Tory party in Scotland starts to question the right of Christian Allard, a former member of the Scottish Parliament, 25 years working, contributing to Scotland more than any Tory MSP has ever done, when they start to question his right to comment on public affairs in Scotland, you wonder, but nonetheless, I suspect that will be won. What I don't think will be won from Westminster is Nicola Sturgeon's belief that Scotland must have its place within the European single marketplace. I don't think that anything that Theresa May has said, but that wouldn't take very long to sum up. But as far as you can interpret from the political vacuum in Westminster, It seems that they're prioritising keeping the foreigners out to keeping in the market. Nor do I think they'll have the wit, the wisdom, the flexibility, the sensitivity, the observation of Scotland's democratic rights to allow Scotland and Northern Ireland to stay in, even when they want to go out themselves. So therefore, I think something like 2 years' time, maybe slightly shorter, maybe slightly longer, things are going to come to the crunch again. And 2 years ain't an enormous time in politics to prepare, because this time we have to win. We have to win this for Scotland. Because what's opening up at Westminster is political isolation, is spendthrift militarism, and it's inevitable economic decline. And we can do much better than that. And the symbols of that future at Westminster are there for all to see. Westminster, the palace, is to be renovated at a cost of $4 billion going on $10 billion. Hinkley Point, that great triumph of British, Chinese, French technology, is going ahead at a cost of $30 to $50 billion. HS2, that fast rail which will spread the country from London to Birmingham, is going ahead at $30 to $50 billion. And the daddy of them all, Trident missiles, £200 billion over the next 50 years for the next generation of weapons of mass destruction. Now, for goodness sake, if we can't offer an alternative prospectus that beats that, then we should be ashamed of ourselves. Because our vision, our alternative vision, is of a socially just, economically prosperous society in the mainstream of the European tradition. And the first thing I would say is let's stick to these visions, the vision that we have against the vision that they have. Don't get distracted. Don't let the hoodies who croak for doom distract us from the essential message that will galvanise Scotland. And the second thing I would say is that we have to be detailed, but not definitive in how we spell. You all learn lessons, and I've learned a few from 2014. How do we have to be detailed? But the Scottish Government has to provide the detail that satisfies people in independence. For example, let's take, I think it's absolutely shameful as this campaign gets underway that we're getting B-grade scaremongers like David Mundell. When we should insist on Premier League scaremongers like George Osborne, like we had last time. But no, social media, that's why I brought my smartphone with me. This will make all the difference this time round. And I looked at two images. There's David Munnell saying a hard border between Scotland and England, and David Davis on the 1st of September telling people in Ireland there's no chance of a hard border between the Republic of Ireland and the north of Ireland. They're encapsulated in two phrases is the emptiness of the scaremongering of our opponents. And as I say, we're in the B League of scaremongers now. So we have to supply the detail to overcome these arguments, but not definitive. Why? Because Scotland is a country of many, many trends and tendencies and views, and we have to set out the policy options. Perhaps we were too definitive and confused the SNP with the national movement last time round. So, detail, because why detail? Detail because, we're no Brexiteers and we're no Donald Trump. We have to have a prospectus to satisfy an intelligent, energised political electorate, but not definitive, because we have to build, once again, a coalition that will take us to victory. The enthusiasm in this meeting today, the galvanisation, I addressed the New Lanark, 200 people this afternoon. The spread of that message depends on having that coalition brought together again. In 2014, we started a campaign 2 years before at 27%, and we ended up at 45%. There's been 9 opinion polls since the Brexit referendum. The average of them is 48% for yes. We start from a strong position, But our strength, as it lay in 2014, will lie in the grassroots campaign and the variety and coalition of interests who, by their enthusiasm, will want to bring about a better Scotland. There was a phrase, wasn't there, in the Iraq War, the coalition of the willing. But our coalition in Scotland will not be the Bush-Blair coalition for militarism. It will be a coalition of people who can see a Scotland beyond the Westminster straitjacket. It will be a coalition of people who can witness and work to bring about that socially just, prosperous European society in Scotland. And it will be a coalition of people who see a Scotland which will transcend our experience. And if we capture that moment that were encapsulated in Pumeza singing the international anthem in Celtic Park, that moment which was symbolised by that queue of people in the sun in the city of Dundee, waiting to exercise the right to demand Scotland's nationhood, then in 2 years' time, or whenever it is, then this movement, this campaign, will be unstoppable. Thank you very much.